Hello, and welcome to this short lecture on psychology in the media, becoming an informed consumer. I'm your guest lecturer, Dr. Sue Priebe. Psychologists and psychological findings are often featured in the media. Sometimes it's a researcher who's being interviewed about an interesting new study. Or a psychologist may appear on a talk show to discuss the research on a particular topic, such as whether violent video games influence aggressiveness. Well, how can you evaluate information about psychological topics that are reported in the mass media? I'd like to share with you some guidelines that may help. Anecdotes are the essence of talk shows, not scientific evidence. Psychology-related topics are standard fare on news and talk shows, and even the so-called reality TV shows. Although such programs often feature psychologists with research experience and expertise in a particular area, the show tends to abandon discussions of scientific evidence in favor of anecdotal evidence. What is anecdotal evidence? It consists of personal stories told to confirm or support a particular claim. The personal stories are often dramatic, funny, or heart-warming, making them subjectively interesting and compelling. But as we've noticed in this chapter, anecdotes are not scientific evidence. By definition, an anecdote is one person's subjective experience told from his or her perspective. There's no way to know if the person's experience is actually representative of the experiences of other people, or if it's just exceptional or unusual. Plus, there's no way to determine the story's accuracy or truthfulness. Point 2. Dramatic or sensational headlines are hooks. Headlines are designed to grab your attention. But if you listen or read further, you'll usually encounter much more cautious statements by the psychologists themselves. As scientists, psychologists tend to be conservative in explaining their research results so as not to exaggerate their findings. Reporters, on the other hand, are sometimes more interested in attracting readers or viewers than in accurately portraying scientific results. As neuroscientist Diane Beck writes, the press often presents the latest news in health as a breakthrough or as an undeniable truth. This, after all, is what sells newspapers. But those of us in science know that breakthroughs are actually very rare, that all results require interpretation, and that scientific knowledge is actually built up slowly over time, with path corrections along the way. So given the difficulty of compressing complicated information into a 10-second soundbite, it's common for researchers to be quoted out of context or for important qualifying statements to be left out by a reporter or producer. Consequently, a 60-minute interview may be edited down to just 20 seconds of airtime. Point 3, read the actual summary of the study. Psychological research is usually published in a professional psychology journal before it's shared with the general public. If a media report notes the original source of a professional publication, you can usually find the study's abstract on the internet. The abstract is a concise summary of the research and its findings. PubMed at www.pubmed.gov is one excellent source for reading abstracts. Another good source is Google Scholar at scholar.google.com. To try it, go to PubMed and type in the researcher's last name or names and a couple of the key words from the study. In the list that opens, you should find the study you're looking for in the first few results. Point 4, evaluate the design of the study. Media reports of psychological research usually describe how the study was actually carried out. Look for the elements of good scientific research that we have discussed in this chapter, such as operational definitions of variables, random sampling, random assignment, experimental and control groups, and so forth. Point 5, distinguish between correlation and causality. Remember the correlation we mentioned earlier in our PowerPoints? As a general rule, when the words link, tie, connection, association, or relationship are used in the media to describe psychological findings, the research being described is highly likely to be correlational. Correlational studies are often reported in the mass media with the implication that a cause and effect relationship exists. But from our earlier discussion in our PowerPoints, you understand that even though two factors may be strongly correlated, it's entirely possible that one factor does not actually cause change in the other factor. Instead, a third factor might be responsible for the changes reported. Only the experimental method can provide evidence of a causal relationship between the two factors. And point number 6, embrace an attitude of healthy scientific skepticism. Basic human nature sometimes lead us to look for easy answers to life dilemmas, whether that involves increasing your motivation and self-discipline, improving your memory, combating stress, or enhancing your relationships. Psychological research has much to say about these and other practical topics, but achieving these goals is rarely as easy as the popular press portrays it. Although you should always keep your mind open to new possibilities, you must carefully consider the evidence. Therefore, when evaluating research claims reported in the media, remember one final axiom. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.